Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we're going to begin the funeral service of Stuart J. Rosenberg. Cantor Randy Herman will be officiating. Once again, we do have seats up front. It's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of wisdom. I have to quote Rabbi Shapiro because he said that, but please be seated up front.
Psalm 23. Mizmor leDavid, Adonai roi lo echsar, bino desheyar vitzeni, Al mei menuchot yanaleni, nafshi yeshovev, yancheni v'maglei tzedek, yancheni v'maglei tzedek, Leman Shemo, Kam ki elech begeit salmavet, lo irara, ki ata imadi. Shivtecha umishantecha, Shivtecha umishantecha, Hema yenachamuni, Taroch lefanai shulchan, Taroch lefanai shulchan, Taroch lefanai shulchan, neged zorerai, Dishanta vashemen roshi, Dishanta vashemen roshi, Dishanta vashemen roshi, kosi revaya, Achtov vachesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai v'shavti Mishavti beveis Adonai, Vishavti beveis Adonai, Leorech yamim, Yai dai 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 dai, Dai 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 dai, Yai dai 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 dai, Dai 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 dai, Yai dai 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 dai, Yai dai 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 dai, Yai dai dai. Stuart would want to hear a lot more singing than that. Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai dai dai. Good morning. My name is Cantor Randy Herman. and I was blessed to be a close personal friend and musical colleague of Stuart's. It is truly an extraordinary honor to be officiating here this morning. And as shocking and horrifying and impossible to believe as it may be, we are here to say goodbye to the indescribably beautiful, unique, and magnificent Stuart Rosenberg. Stuart Rosenberg. Mandolin player, fiddle player, lover of all aspects of existence, truth seeker with a rare and uncanny ability to actually find the truth and express it with easy confidence and poetic perfection, and sometimes deliciously edgy humor. Transcendent radio personality, music producer with a life-altering approach to the art form, and a lens through which he invited us all to view world culture in such a way that was transformative, soul-enriching, and life-affirming. Playing music with Stuart was the greatest experience imaginable. But even just talking to him, the conversations you could have with Stuart, every conversation, I can hear his voice with that constant undertone of childlike excitement and wonder about everything. The most profound and gorgeous wisdom just easily and naturally spilling out, articulating the essence of life experiences that the rest of us could feel and sense, but only Stuart could put into the most perfect and beautiful words. His friend Jamie O'Reilly, in her beautiful blog post about Stuart yesterday, wrote, "I hold memories of our long talks in the deepest recesses of my heart." I can so relate. So many of Stuart's incredible words and insights are forever imprinted on my soul. I was really struck seeing all these posts about Stuart on Facebook by how many people feel that Stuart had a profound impact on their lives. So just indulge me for a moment. If Stuart Rosenberg had a profound impact on your life, raise your hand. So with so many people here today who've been so deeply impacted by Stuart, hundreds of amazing Stuart stories that we all have, I know it's incredibly unfair for me to share any one of my own personal stories, but I'm going to share just one because I think it's an example of the kinds of magical things that could happen when you went places and did things with Stuart. So I had left Chicago and moved to New York, and Stuart called and asked if I wanted to do a really cool gig with him in Mexico. A couple people here were on that gig in Tulum. And I said, yeah, sure. So we fly down to this big Mexican Jewish wedding in Tulum. And it was the best gig ever because they flew us down for a couple extra days, and we all had our own beautiful hotel rooms with balconies and hammocks. And Tulum, of course, is known for these spectacular ancient Mayan ruins. And because we had some extra time, Stuart said to me and the percussion player, hey, let's go see the ruins. So we get there in the very late afternoon, and we were told, I'm so sorry, the ruins are closed for the day. So Stuart says to us, hey, let's just go down to the beach and hike up and sneak up to the ruins from the back. And because Stuart Rosenberg suggested it, we assumed it was a great idea. So we go down to the beach, and we start hiking up this cliff, and it starts getting steeper and steeper and darker, and then the terrain becomes so steep that it was obviously not safe. But it became unclear whether it was safer to go back down or keep going up. So we kept going up, and then we hit some barbed wire, and Stuart's lifting it up, and we're crawling underneath. And now it's getting really dark, and all of a sudden we get to the top, and there's the ruins just as the sun sets, and it was breathtaking for about 30 seconds. And then there's a flashlight and somebody walking towards us yelling in Spanish. And suddenly the flashlight is in our faces, and we're trying to explain our way out of this, and the man says, Lo siento, amigos, pero el jefe está aquí. I'm sorry, my friends, but the chief is here. You have to come with me. And we're all imagining Mexican prison. So we're following the guy with the flashlight, and Stuart is frantically whispering to me, "You speak Spanish, explain to El Jefe that we're tourists, that we got lost on the beach, we just need help, we don't know where we are." And then we're walking, and we come around a corner of the ruins, and suddenly there's bright lights everywhere, and beautiful decorations, and a long 50-foot table covered with an elegant tablecloth with enormous amounts of incredible food and fondue and fountains and chocolate and bottles of alcohol and fancy glasses. And the only two people there are these two impossibly gorgeous young women with long black hair and beautiful low-cut fancy ball gowns. And one of them comes over to us visibly drunk and holding a drink and says, "Hello, I am El Jefe. Would you like a cocktail?" And these things only happened with Stuart. Can I get an amen? It turns out she was the chief of archaeology for that part of Mexico, and there was a big international banking convention in town. And she was hoping to raise money for some projects and had invited all these bankers to this banquet, and they all showed up for 2 minutes and said hello and left. It was a bust. So El Jefe was depressed and getting drunk, and she said, "Please stay with me, eat, drink." And the five of us stayed there for hours, eating and drinking by the ruins. It was fantastic. Or as Stuart would say, it was fabulous. So everyone who knew Stuart knows that his kids, Allegra and Theo, were everything to him. He was terrified, he told me many times, that he might die with all of his awful health issues before they were grown up. And then when they did grow up and became these fabulous adults, he was so relieved. I have 2 little kids at home now, and he would say to me, "Randy, I know this is overwhelming to have young kids. When they become these amazing adults, and you can really be friends with them, the payoff is so huge and so worth it." Allegra and Theo, he was in awe of the two of you, thrilled by you. You brought him the greatest joy and the deepest satisfaction. Theo, he would tell me these amazing conversations he'd have with you, how you had become a deep, sensitive soul and were coming into your own professionally. He thought you were the greatest. There was nothing but glowing love and appreciation when he talked about you. Your life was an incredible gift to your dad. I'm trying my best to hold it together. I'm doing a terrible job, I'm sorry. And Allegra, this recent trip he made to spend time with you in London, I have to assume you know how much he just utterly loved it. It was bliss for him, utopia. He was in awe of your creativity and brilliance in the work you were doing in the world. When I suggested that he gets a little credit for that, he'd say, "Nope, this has nothing to do with me. Allegra did it all on her own." And I'd say, "Are you kidding? Allegra writes all this beautiful stuff and produces theater and makes music and is finding these totally unique personal ways of expressing herself in the world and making money at it, and it's just a coincidence that she's Stuart Rosenberg's daughter?" Allegra and Theo, you two carry your father inside you. Stuart's legacy and spirit are more than anywhere else in you two now. And I trust you both fully understand what an extraordinary blessing that is. Allegra and Theo are both going to speak this morning. If you're ready, we'll start with Theo.
Well, thank you everyone for coming. It's a great turnout. I'd like to preface this by saying that my dad gave me many things, but one of them was his sensitivity, so bear with me here while I try to get through this. My father's larger-than-life imagination led him through the path of the unknown. His dedication to being his true self, but to being true to himself and chasing his dreams, proved to be a fruitful path, one that came with an endless amount of lore, and the wisdom of many wise men, of many cultures, and of many lives. Most of all, His dedication to achieving alignment of reality and of his mind and heart, basically making his dreams come true, created a man that loved his family and his friends unconditionally. His ability to light up the room with his warmth is a major loss for not only the family, but the entire world. For the past few days, I've heard this over and over. One thing I keep hearing from everyone I speak to is how much he truly loved my mom, my sister, and I. He would talk about us to everyone, and I could really tell he meant it by the way he treated us. Every morning, or almost every morning, he would send me a long text filled with words of affirmation. Here's one for example. Hey, good morning, Spicy. His nickname for me over the past year was Spicy Dog. I hope you slept well and your day is off to an excellent start. Prayer hand emoji, heart emoji, muscle emoji, 7 rocket emojis. Or after a road trip to visit my sick grandmother in Michigan, he would send me a text like this. Thanks very much for your excellent companionship, your willingness to listen to my stories, your deep soulfulness, and your skillful driving. It is a pleasure and an honor to be your pop. You are a wonderful son. Prayer hand emoji, heart emoji, 1 rocket emoji. I'd often call him seeking guidance, stressing over something like a girl or my career, and he would take me time talking me through it, validating my anxieties, and shining the light to the end of the tunnel. So I was able to walk to the other side. Recently, after a call where I was expressing my challenges navigating through my transition to adulthood, he texted me this. You have a depth of self-knowledge that I did not have at your age, and a determination to change and grow that is absolutely inspirational. It will happen. You will become the person you imagine yourself to be, and you will find love and the love and comfort you crave and deserve. It is hard for you to see that from where you are, but with the experience of age, I can see it clearly from my vantage point. Honestly, you are wise beyond your years, so much wiser and mature than I was at your age. And as your age catches up to your wisdom, you will find the world coming around you and coming around to you in many ways, many beautiful ways. In the meantime, I'm honored to be your pops and your friend, and as always, I'm here for you in any and every way I can be. I didn't tell him then, and I'll forever regret it, but these things meant the absolute world to me. Over the past month, I've been going through a lot of transformations. And, through my heart and my mind being overwhelmed with the challenge of building my own life and the realities that it brings, I too aspire to be true to myself and allow my imagination to guide my life to where I see myself, just like my dad did. When your imagination and reality don't align, it can be challenging to see the path where that is possible. Looking towards your future and what it holds can be daunting, especially if you feel behind. But every day and every night, no matter what time it was, he would be there to talk to me and walk me through it with love and compassion. He never judged me. He never unfairly criticized me. He always had his heart open to me, even when I was rude or cold towards him. Over the past month or so, we got so close to each other. And although it's unfair, he was taken from us so soon. He succeeded in that time to bring me peace and getting me in the right headspace, all while silently suffering himself. The page he left me on was how to love myself like he loved me. At my age, according to him, he was going through these motions as well. Coming from parents intent on him becoming a doctor, becoming a musician was out of the question for a career. But my dad's imagination and knowledge of what he wanted for himself guided him through the path of the unknown, away from his parents' requirements for acceptance. It took him through despair, happiness, adventure, anxiety, and eventually ended up as a successful entertainer in the city of Chicago. A man cherished and loved by so many, as evidenced by the outpouring of love we have received today and over the past few days. This took him to the falling of the Berlin Wall in 1989 and into East Germany on the day the Iron Curtain fell. It took him to a kibbutz during the Yom Kippur War to cut the heads off turkeys and work at an orange juice factory. It took him to playing for presidents, the Pritzkers, busking across Europe, what seems like playing every wedding and bar mitzvah in Chicago, having a successful radio show, composing and producing countless records, the scores for countless films, becoming a writer, a scholar, and much, much more. And most importantly, finding the love of his life, my mother Rachel, and raising my sister and I. I keep hearing how much he talked about us to his friends and how much he loved us, which he never failed to let us know. Even though he wasn't a sports guy, he tried to take me to every ballpark in the country. And we only fell short due not to his lack of interest, but to my falling out of love with the sport of professional baseball. Overall, we traveled all over the country and hit about 17 professional parks and a few minor league ones too. He came to every one of my baseball games to cheer me on. He always asked to hear the music I produced. He tuned into every one of my college radio shows and gave me comments, which he inspired me to start in the first place. He gave me unconditional love, an unconditional love that emerged from the absence of it in his own formative years. He knew what was right, and he made it happen. About a week ago, we met at Bialystok Pub on Diversity in Lawndale in Chicago. After his rehearsal for a sub for his weekly gig at the tour, knowing I was in distress and needing company, he reached out and offered his time to hang out. I chose Bialystok because it was small, inconspicuous, and lacked patrons. We just sat for 2 hours, and talked for 2 hours about his life, my life, and random stuff, just shooting the shit. At a certain point in the night, I just looked at him. I knew how special this moment was. Something told me that this moment was one I would cherish forever, and I will. His deep and passionate soul was something that is so rare, and is something that him and I share. During my moments of distress, we bonded over the fact that he's been through the same things and has felt the same way. His guidance and wisdom lifted me out of a dark place, and I will take that with me through the rest of my life. Out of the many things he's gifted me over his lifetime, his presence, his words, and his love that night was like a gift from God himself. As we gather here to remember and celebrate my father's life, we carry forward his unyielding spirit, his vibrant imagination, and his profound love for us all. He taught us that life is not just to be lived, but to be crafted with imagination and creativity. We will honor his memory by living as he did, embracing the unknown with open hearts and dreaming as boldly as he did, living through the ideals that speak true to our hearts. Though his physical presence is no longer with us, his spirit will continue to guide us every day. As I stand here today, I vow to honor my father's memory by living the lessons he has instilled in me. He was a beacon in the dark, my steady hand in times of need, and my cheerleader in every success. I will walk through the unknown with my head high, chase my dreams, follow my imagination to build the life that I know is right for me. My father's absence might cast a shadow upon our world, but it doesn't have to darken our lives. I urge everyone here to draw inspiration from him and show love, unbounded love. Never miss the chance to tell those around you that you love them, that you are proud of them, and what they mean to you. If we can do this, we will amplify my father's light, which is exactly what he would have wished for. Thank you.
Hi, thank you all for coming. Theo, that was so wonderful. You're such an amazing writer. He'd be so proud of you. There were a lot of things my father liked to say, stewisms, I called them. Some of them were plain silly, like time flies like the wind, but fruit flies like bananas. Some of them were philosophical, like it's a small world, but I wouldn't want to paint it. Some of them were quippy borrowings from friends, like Dick Bunn's incredulous, you couldn't write this shit. And some of them really made you think, The heart of another is a dark forest, he liked to say, whenever one of his children presented him with a conundrum involving the human condition. What he meant by that is the sensible idea that none of us can ever really know what someone else is thinking or feeling, and that trying to do so is a fool's errand. I believe it. It's one of my favorite sayings, and one that many of my friends have freely adopted from me as a guiding light for their own life. But on the other hand, I know what my father felt. His heart was no dark forest to me. It was a lighted, dappled wood, rich with the scent of life and growth, and filled with the calls and darting shadows of his beloved birds. It was a whole world, one which had its mysterious and hidden parts, but one which was never, ever closed to me. Over time, I came to explore and understand the landscape of my father's heart. When he taught me to drive, he sat in the passenger seat as I navigated Western Avenue, the longest street in the city. And as I drove, he told me stories of his childhood, stories that up until then had not been a part of his arsenal of exciting tales. Difficult stories about how hard it had been to go against his parents' wishes and leave college to pursue his dream of becoming a musician. Stories of his failures and his fears as he battled the judgment of others he faced as he became fully and totally himself. A new part of the forest came into view, a wide clearing I found myself in with new paths stretching out ahead in every direction. He opened himself to me, the way that he opened himself to everyone he knew and made them feel at home, understood, and loved. My father had a storyteller's heart. He was a raconteur, a tale spinner, a dreamer who made his dreams into our reality. "You're sick of my old stories," he'd say, embarrassed, or "You've heard this one before," like it was a bad thing, like I could ever in my life get tired of the one about the escaped snails, or the carnival ride gone wrong, or being in Berlin when the wall fell, or playing violin on top of Mount Kinabalu. There were stories about his time in Israel on a kibbutz herding terrified turkeys with foil-tipped sticks, stories about when he dropped out of Northwestern to tour with the Rogues under the name Stuart Briscoe after the Jewish mayor of Dublin. Stories about busking his way from Greece to England, about the years spent producing Yiddish theater for retirees across the country, about becoming the nucleus of a thriving art scene here in Chicago. By the time I came into this world, my dad was 40 and already had a decades-long career, which I only know about secondhand. Go up to any altar cocker here and they'll be able to tell you so much better than me about his time on the Manure Tour, his years with the Lake Town Buskers and the Otters, his shows at Navy Pier, and the musical community he cultivated at the first incarnation of the Evanston Space. His WBEZ radio shows were beloved by listeners, but when he got unfairly kicked to the curb after a change in the guard at the station, he didn't back down. I love this quote I found from a Tribune article from 1994. He said, "Either I can crawl away and go home or I can keep on playing. I'm going to keep on playing because there's nothing else that I know how to do." That reminds me of another Stuism. What do I know? I'm just a mandolin player. But he knew so much. Growing up, I thought having an answer for every single question was an ability that all dads just had. A question about science, history, art, or the human condition would always be met with an answer, either a detailed one that demonstrated his erudition or a broadly accurate one that showed off his skillful reasoning and logic, because he was well-read, but he was also fucking smart. My friends know me as a totally annoying know-it-all, always ready with a confident answer to any question, overconfident. But what they don't know is I'm only trying to be like my dad. I'm always only ever trying to be like him. It's kind of embarrassing. I named my college radio show Radio Gumball as a tribute to his show Radio Gumbo, and sometimes he was the only listener. And I've told my friends I won't have a DJ at my wedding or my kids' bar mitzvahs because it was against everything he stood for. I devoured Umberto Eco novels and the fringe philosophy of Julian Jaynes because my dad recommended them so highly. But even as I tried to be like him, he was the one who highlighted all the ways that I was unique. He called the things I wrote perfectly Allegrish. He was endlessly encouraging, bordering on enabling, of my wayward writerly ways, my constant leaping from gig to gig, my passions no matter how obscure, my individuality, and my sense of style. He gave me many gifts. Most recently was a pair of expensive Bluetooth headphones, which he bought for me without a word last month when I told him my old pair bit the dust. He never wanted me to be without music. And most inconvenient of his gifts is my utter inability to sit in an office working a 9 to 5. I tried it and I couldn't hack it, and that's his fault. It was when I was still in college that he saw me giving my time and effort to others for free, and he sat me down in a Starbucks in Brooklyn to teach me about that dangerous dark magic, freelancing. For the next 8 years of 1099s, from the precarious joys of a creative path to the dark moments of doubt, he was always there to coach me through it and promise me that success was just around the corner. 2 years ago, when I was offered the chance to write a proposal for a nonfiction book, I was frankly terrified, worried I wasn't good enough for something as big as a book. I came to a grinding halt many times in the process of writing that proposal, and my dad was always, always there to talk me through it. He strong-armed me, basically. You need to put your name on something, he said. You can spend a whole life helping people making their art and forgetting to make your own. Don't let that happen to you. My friend reminded me of something I told her years ago, which I'd forgotten. She had been bemoaning her poor relationship with her father, and I consoled her, giving her some patented stew advice in place of her father's insults. Then I said apologetically, not everyone has a good dad or a dad that they like, so because I do have one, I have to shout it from the rooftops. And boy, did I shout. I never shut up about him. Living far away, not able to force all my friends to come meet him, I had to resort to pure rhetoric in order to draw his picture so that they could see me through its frame. Recent acquaintances I've hung out maybe 2 or 3 times with have told me I mentioned him in each and every one of those conversations. It may have been overkill, kind of a propaganda campaign of sorts, but I had to make sure every single person I knew him too. Last fall, we explored the beautiful southwest coast of England together, spending time in Cornwall and Devon on what I dearly hoped would be the first of many father-daughter trips. In Porthcurno, a town on the very western tip of England, we went to the Telegraph Museum, a monument to the history of telecommunications based in the old telegraph station right where the transatlantic cables used to come up from the beach. Looking at a huge cross-section of a telegraph cable as big as his head, we gasped at each other with the pure awe of infinite curiosity, and then we laughed. Mom would not like this place, we said, out of love. And knowing how lucky we were to share between the two of us a fascination with the world and how it works that illuminates every corner of history. You're the kind of traveler I used to be, he told me on that trip. It saddened him to have to struggle to keep up with me, even as I slowed my steps for him. But I was so happy to be there with him, I would have stood still. And I wondered wistfully at the time if it was even still possible today to be the kind of traveler he was, moving freely on an open-ended plane ticket, living cheaply, not knowing where he'd be sleeping next with just his violin on his back. He was so brave. Am I that brave? In what has been and will continue as a lifelong journey to honor my father, I'm determined to find out. I want to be like him. Even though I'm an introvert and I can't quite understand how he managed to keep up with so many people, giving generously of himself to all of them, endless rounds of phone calls and emails and coffees and lunches and gigs, which kept him going with the promise of more music, always more music. The fact that he was so beloved and that there are hundreds of people who are coming forward and telling stories of the ways he touched their lives, well, it's not a silver lining, more like a tin lining or a lead lining, and that I kind of really wish there was anything better we could have instead. There were so many moments when he could have been taken from us. The fact that he came through all of them until now is a tribute to the abilities of my brilliant, spectacular mother, whose care and attention was something miraculous, and the love between them for over 30 years something tremendous to behold. For my father, I will finish and publish my book, and another one, and another one. For my father, I'll make sure my friends and family know how much I love them and make them an integral part of my world, my shared universe of creativity and joy that he taught me how to make. The heart of another is a dark forest, but the soul of another, as treasured as my father Stuart, is a brilliant light, one which blazes infinitely, showing us all the way forward. Thank you.
Okay, I'm done. I'm not following that. Stuart was fond of saying, I belong to 2 tribes, the tribe of the Jews and the tribe of music. Did anyone here seriously consider, even for a second, that there was going to be a funeral for Stuart Rosenberg that didn't have music? I'd like to invite up Stuart's dear friend, Tom Amandus, who's going to make a little music with, I believe, Jamie O'Reilly and perhaps some members of the Rogues. come on up. This one works.
Swap. Stuart was a rogue, which was always such an unlikely group of, we all grew up together, and Stuart found us and decided that we would do Irish music from then on, which we did, and we did many other things as well, radio shows, and I'm just done, and I can't even. So we're going to do a song that was, for me, one of the most beautiful musical things, which I hope I can do, with Jamie, my dear, dear friend and ex-wife, my dear friend John, my brother Paul, and my dear friend Peter. And we will have an empty chair here for our fiddle player who decided to move on.
What's the first line of the summertime? Oh, the summertime is coming, and the trees are sweetly blooming, and the wild mountain thyme grows around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie, go? And we'll all go together to pluck wild mountain thyme all around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie, go? I will build, my love, a bower near yon pure and crystal fountain, and upon it I will pile all the flowers of the mountain. Will you go, lassie, go? And we'll all go together to pluck wild mountain thyme all around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie, go?
If my true love, she were gone, I would surely find another where the wild mountain thyme grows around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie, go?
And we'll all go together to block wild mountain thyme all around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie, go? Sing it with us. We'll all go together to block wild mountain thyme all around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie, go? Will you go, laddie, go?
One of the first people I spoke to after I got the news about Stuart was his favorite bass player, Dick Bunn, who said to me, "Oh man, talk about the end of an era." And it truly is, because there was our life with Stuart Rosenberg in it, and then whatever comes now, which, God willing, will be something wonderful, but there's no getting around it. It will also be something diminished. And I say our life on purpose, because everyone in this room and everyone who's with us watching by stream, we're all sharing a life together because of Stuart. That was the work that Stuart did in the world. It wasn't just that he brought people together, it was much more than that. Stuart was a Rebbe. And if you don't know that word, it's like rabbi, but a little bit different. It suggests a spiritual leader with whom one has a deep, loving, emotional connection. A Rebbe has true wisdom more than everyone else, and everyone knows it. A Rebbe touches your insides and brings a community together from that place. He binds people together. Truly, Stuart was my Rebbe in life. I didn't just lose a friend, I lost my Rebbe. And I'm guessing that's also true for some of you. Stuart talked often about spirit. Spirit, that was a big word for him. I think he used the word spirit in place of the word God. Stuart embodied the idea of being a light unto others. He was intimately familiar with the light of spirit. But for someone to so intimately know light, they must also know darkness. And Stuart did. He suffered tremendously. Many of us have some awareness of this, but none of us really knew it and experienced it with him the way that Rachel did. Rachel, you were the one who was there with him when he was really suffering. You were the one who held him when he cried. You were the one who was with him when he really suffered. I never saw it. You were the one who truly took care of Stuart, and because of you, he stayed alive a lot longer than the statistics said he was supposed to. This was an extraordinary gift you gave to him and to all of us. I heard the story more than once now of how on your second date, Stuart looked into your eyes and saw your future together. And what a life you made together, what a family you made. We got all of Stuart's good stuff, the best stuff. You got even more of that than we did, but you also got the difficult stuff. And I can't imagine, as much as I loved him, that it wasn't always easy to be married to Stuart Rosenberg. You were his soulmate. We're so deeply grateful to you for being there for our beloved Stuart. He really, really needed you, and you did a magnificent job. And it only could have been you. There could never have been anyone but you. You were truly his soulmate. I'm going to ask for a show of hands one more time. Raise your hand if you discovered any great music because of Stuart Rosenberg. There was a particular handful of songs that became Stuart's personal core repertoire in somewhat recent years, the songs that he wanted to play and sing all the time at every gig. When he did a concert with me, when I brought him out to my shul in New York when I was living there, he was telling me, at least at that time, he's like, there's like 6 or 7 songs I kind of just want to play these songs all the time, that's it. One was Sephardic, one was, and this was one of them. Before God made the sea and the land, he held all the stars in the palm of his hand, and they ran through his fingers like grains of sand. And one little star fell alone, and then the Lord God hunted through the wide night air for the little dark star on the wind down there. And he stated and he promised he'd take special care that it wouldn't get lost again. Now a man don't mind if the stars grow dim and the clouds blow over and darken him, as long as the Lord God's watching over them, keeping track how it all goes down. But I've been walking through the night and the day till my eyes get weary and my head turns gray, and sometimes I think maybe God's gone away, forgetting his promise and the word he'd say. And we're lost out here in the stars, little stars, big stars blowing through the night. And we're lost out here in the stars, little stars, big stars blowing through the night. And we're lost out here in the stars. In a moment, we're going to hear the traditional prayer chanted at Jewish funerals, the El Male Rachamim prayer, God full of compassion, in which we ask God to accept the soul of Stuart Rosenberg into his loving embrace. We'll use in the prayer Stuart's Hebrew name, Shlomo ben Moshe Yekatriel Verivka, and we ask that his soul be bound up in the bond of life for eternity. Stuart loved being Jewish. He felt it was fundamental to his essence. He loved Israel. I was asked to mention that. He spent time living there. He spoke Hebrew. He often spoke of wanting to connect people to the deepest parts of themselves, and his favorite context for doing that was Jewish life cycle events. Well, this is Stuart's final life cycle event, and I'm 100% sure that he would want this prayer sung. So I would like to invite up a lifelong friend of Stuart's, Cantor Stuart Figa, to honor Stuart with the El Male Rachamim. Please rise.
I just want to say that Stuart was my Rebbe also. And I'm proud to say that I was his matchmaker. It's true.
El malei rachamim, shochein bamromim, hamatzei menucha nechona, tachat kanfei hashechina. במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע, מזהירים את נשמת שלמה בן משה, יקטריאל ורבקה, שהלך לעולמו בגן עדן, תתה מנוחתו. הנע בעל רחמים, בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בצרור הקין את נשמתו. אדוני הוא נחלתו, ינוח בשלום על משכבו, ונאמר אמן.
You may be seated. We're going to end the service with just a little more music. I'd like to invite up Allegra, along with David and Jeff Lazaroff, the Lazaroff brothers, and Stuart's nephew, Benny Lerner, to send us off with one of Stuart's favorite songs. Following the music, just stay put, and David Jacobson from this funeral home will give us some information for those of us who will be heading to the cemetery. The last thing I will say is, Stuart, if I don't see you in the future, I'll see you in the pasture.
My dad loved the Grateful Dead so much. This is one of his favorites. If my words did glow with the golden sunshine, and my tunes were played on the harp unstrung, would you hear my voice come through the music? Would you hold it near as it were your own? It's a hand-me-down. The thoughts are broken. Perhaps they're better left unsung. I don't know. Don't really care. Let there be songs to fill the air. Ripple in still water, where there is no pebble tossed, no wind to blow. Reach out your hand. If your cup be empty, if your cup is full, may it be again. Let it be known there is a fountain that was not made by the hands of men. There is a road, no simple highway, between the dawn and the dark of night. And if you go, no one may follow. That path is for your steps alone. Ripple in still water when there is no pebble tossed, no wind to blow. You who choose to lead must follow. But if you fall, then you fall alone. If you should stand, then who's to guide you? If I knew the way, I would take you home. Ba da da da, la da 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 da. If I knew the way, I would take you home.
Ladies and gentlemen, the interment service will continue at Memorial Park Cemetery, located at 9900 Grosse Pointe Road here in Skokie. The family will be together at the Rosenberg residence at 4320 Bobolink Terrace here in Skokie today from 4 to 7:30 p.m., Sunday from 12 noon to 5 p.m., Monday from 2 to 5, and 7 to 9. That information is on the service folder, as well as information about memorial contributions to the Greater Chicago Jewish Festival. For those of you who are joining us online, all that information is on the funeral home's website. For those of you who will be joining us in the procession will be forming in the parking lot. Please obtain an orange safety funeral sticker to place on the right-hand side of your windshield. Have your bright lights and hazard lights on at all times. For additional measures of safety, we will be providing a car in the back of the procession to hopefully keep other cars from entering the procession. Use your horn liberally as you're going through the intersections, and please do not speak or text on your cellular phone while driving to the cemetery. Ladies and gentlemen, there's another room full of people and the lobby's full of people. We want to do this in a dignified, respectful manner. Please keep in mind, the family is not going to the limousine until everyone is out of the funeral home, so they're not approached. At the cemetery, the pallbearers will bring Stuart's casket to the grave. Please do not approach the family until after the burial. It's at that time you may offer words of consolation. The following people have been asked to serve as pallbearers. When I call your name, please stand next to Stuart's casket. Jeff Lazaroff, Chip Covington, Peter Levavi, Joshua Lerner, Benny Lerner, Carrie Lastman. Also, I'd like to invite, this is on behalf of the family, any clergy to serve as honorary pallbearers. Please come forward and just follow Stuart's casket to the hearse. You may also use these doors on this side of the chapel to exit, but at this time I ask everyone to please rise and stand in place as we escort the casket of the Stuart J. Rosenberg from the chapel.
Dance me to your beauty with a burning violin, and dance me through the panic till I'm safely gathered in. Lift me like an olive branch and be my homeward dove, and dance me to the end of love, and dance me to the end of love. Oh, let me see your beauty when the witnesses are gone. Let me feel you moving like they do in Babylon. Show me slowly what I only know the limits of. Dance me to the end of love, and dance me to the end of love. Oh, dance me to the wedding now, dance me on and on. Dance me very tenderly, dance me very long. We're both of us beneath our love, we're both of us above. Dance me to the end of love. Oh, dance me to the end of love. Ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da da da. Ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da da. Dance me to the children who are asking to be born. Dance me through the curtains that our kisses have outworn. Raise a tent of shelter now, though every thread is torn, and dance me to the end of love. Oh, dance me to your beauty with a burning violin. Dance me through the panic till I'm safely gathered in. Touch me with your naked hand, or touch me with your glove. Dance me to the end of love. Yes, dance me to the end of love. Oh, dance me to the end of love.